The council meeting of August 18, 2020 will now please come to order. Due to this meeting being a virtual meeting, council is asking if anyone who would like to address council who's participating through the computer, please use the chat feature now to let Clerk Massarolo know you have a comment, and you will be called on during the comment portion of the meeting. If you are calling on a phone or do not have access to the chat feature, we will give directions during the public comment portion of our meeting for you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mrs. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Broussard.
Present.
Mr. Glassburn.
Here.
Ms. Human.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Mr. Limpert.
Present.
Mr. Schuman.
Here.
Ms. Williamson.
If there are no additions or corrections, the council meeting minutes of August 4th, 2020 are approved as written. The following legislation is considered for suspension of the rules this evening. On second reading, Resolution 2020-80, Resolution 2020-81, Resolution 2020-82, and Ordinance 2020-84. And on first reading, Ordinance 2020-92, Ordinance 2020-94, and Resolution 2020-97. Mayor Kennedy, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, Madam President, I have a few notes. First of all, we completed our fire negotiations, so that'll be coming to you guys soon, and we are working on service and FOP negotiations. There's been a string of break-ins on the west end of town, people that leave their keys in their car or leave their car doors open. These particular burglars are generally between 12 and 18, so it's a young group, the police chief believes, and we just want to make sure and warn residents to make sure, lock your car doors. They didn't break any windows, but anything they could break into without causing a scene, broke into and stole stuff. So we're also working with ODOT. Obviously, there's some legislation working with ODOT on the culvert, but ODOT's been out cleaning their ditch. They've been at Mackenzie heading east. So there's a lot of work to do there along 480, and we'll be meeting with ODOT later on this week talking about all the things we need done. So lobby renovation bids will be in Tuesday the 25th. And also along with that, when construction starts, Mayor's Court will be moving over to the cabin during construction. I want to thank the IT department for their hard work in getting that done. And Madam President, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Assistant Law Director O'Malley, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, thank you. No, I have no report.
Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Finance Director Kopfer, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, Madam President. The Tax Incentive Review Council meeting, the annual meeting, was held virtually last week. The two CRA projects, the A-Loft and the Omni Senior Living, were deemed compliant and approved to continue for the next year, as well as the Great Northern TIF was also deemed compliant and approved to continue. The 2019 audit report and CAFR was publicly released today by the Auditor of State. It's available on our website. I know that my assistant sent everyone copies of it, but it's available on our website under Finance Department reports, and it's also available on the Auditor of State's website. We've been working on completing the PAFR by the end of the month, and the summary June 30th financial statements were sent to council today via email, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Director. Moving into council committee reports, Councilman Broussard, Chairman of the Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee. Do you have a report this evening?
I do, Madam President. Thank you. The Public Safety, Health and Welfare Committee met on Tuesday, August 11th, beginning at 7:02 p.m. Present were committee members Broussard, Williamson, and Limpert, as well as council members Glassburn, Schuman, Kelly, Council President Jones, Directors Lieber, Copper, Gallo, and Glauner, and Guest. We met to discuss Resolution 2020-80, which is a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of 4 new LifePak CR2 defibrillators, that's hard to say, from the Cleveland Clinic for use in the City of North Olmsted Division of Police and declaring it an emergency as amended. So the Director Glauner explained the origin of the donation. We currently have 2 of these devices in use within the city, so this would bring our total up to 6. These are valued at $9,555 each. This was one of the easier discussions and decisions that we'll make this year. We approved it to all of council by a vote of 3-0. At this time, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to amend 2020-80 to include the emergency clause and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to amend Resolution 2020-80 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilman Limpert. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
yes,
Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Resolution 2020-80 is amended with a vote of 6-0.
Thank you, Madam President. The committee meeting then ended at 7:09 p.m. and that will conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Vice Chairman of the Building, Zoning, and Development Committee, do you have a report this evening?
No report this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Schuman, Chairman of the Finance Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do. Thank you, Madam President. The Finance Committee met 8/11/2020 at 7:09. The Finance Committee members Schuman, Broussard, and Kelly were present, along with Council President Jones, Council members Limpert, Williamson, Glassburn, the HR Director, Director Lieber, Director Glauner, Director Kopfer. Discussed was 2020-85. Which is a resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to solicit proposals for excess insurance coverage for the city healthcare and hospitalization plans for 2021, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract for said insurance coverage. Briefly explained by Director Gallo, this resolution is pretty much as it reads. This is insurance that we have to sometimes go out to bid for. No questions from committee, no questions from council members. Committee voted 3-0 to recommend to full council. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert, Chairman of the Streets and Transportation Committee, do you have a report this evening?
I do have a report. Thank you, Madam President. The Streets and Transportation Committee committee met on August 11th at 7:15. Present were committee members Glassburn, Kelly, and Limpert. Council members Jones, Broussard, Schuman, Williamson. Safety Director, Planning Director, HR Director. Discussed was Ordinance 2020-83, which is an ordinance enacted by the City of North Olmsted, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as the municipality, in the matter of the hereinafter described improvement and request cooperation of the County of Cuyahoga, hereinafter referred to as the county, and declaration of emergency, which is a lot of words to say that is an agreement between the county and the city for the county to participate in the resurfacing of Clegg Road. Funding was received from NOACA for this project, and the county, this is agreement that they'll participate with a 60% coverage of construction costs that NOACA does not cover. We would cover then 40% of what remained, the 40% remaining. The documents offered in the agreement, Mrs. Lieber noted, that there's a residential survey online being conducted to receive feedback from residents on the direction of the resurfacing project, as we're looking to really look at the road for how can we improve it, since it hasn't been looked at for several years. And that has an August 21st deadline. Motion passed for the agreement 5-0 to 3-0. Also discussed was Ordinance 2020-84, which is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to allow resurfacing of Brook Park Road for Lorraine Road to the Fairview city limit. This is really a two-step process, as Mrs. Lieber noted, and this is the first part, which is entering into an agreement with ODOT, who will lead the project, and they will also control the bidding process. The construction, the bidding will occur this year, and the construction process is targeted for 2021. It's estimated to be about $2.6 million project, with our portion of that being $1.2 million. And we're looking to do some additional improvements in addition to just the resurfacing, including some landscaping as well as some additional foundational improvements to the road. Finance director noted that the current plan would likely be funded via short-term notes with the potential to bond that out. And then we'll also evaluate TIF, but that's right now that's not a likely course of action. And the motion passed for suspension by a vote of 3-0. May include at 7:27. Madam President, this concludes my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman, Chairwoman of the Environmental Control Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Madam President, I will defer the committee report to Councilman Glassburn because I was not in attendance and he had that committee report. But a moment of privilege, if I may, to thank my colleagues for the agreeing to purchase 2,000 masks for a total of 4,000 to distribution to our residents and our youth population in North Olmsted. And our clerk of council will go ahead and make that purchase order for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Glassburn, Vice Chair of Environmental.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The Environmental Committee met on August 11th at 7:27 p.m. until 7:36 p.m. Present were Directors Lieber, Kopfer, and Glauner, committee members Glassburn and Williamson, and the rest of council, that is councilpersons Broussard, Schuman, and Kelly and Limpert, as well as Council President Jones, and a guest. We discussed the purchase of a MTEC truck, which is to assist the city with flood mitigation, both to allow us to have a second truck so that we could diversify, so that one truck focuses on sewer and one focuses on stormwater, and to help us mitigate some of the more pressing issues that we've had in the southern part of the city, as well as isolated parts of the rest of the city this year. This truck's purchase is a little bit unique in that we're going to be doing a 6-month lease to own, so to speak, at the end of the year. This truck was originally planned for next year's budget, but we're going to have it early to help with these pressing public welfare matters. So the item was passed 2-0 in committee with suspension and emergency. And that concludes my report for the Environmental Committee. And I would also like to ask for a moment of personal privilege.
Yes.
Thank you. I would love to hear, just very briefly, an update from either the mayor or Director Lieber on the Clegg Road survey, since it's due on Friday. Do we have enough responses? Do we need more? How's it going? Anything to that effect? Thank you.
I can answer that, Madam President. Our survey is doing really well. So far, we have, I believe, about 170 surveys completed and submitted. So that's an excellent response rate. We have sent out some direct emails to board and commission members, asked them to share. We've put some reminders up on Facebook as well. And with council's additional efforts helping us spread the word, I would say that that is a very excellent response rate. And if they keep coming in for the next couple of days, I think it'll be a statement to ODOT that our community is invested in this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. And I'll just add that I do not have a report for the Intergovernmental Relations Committee because we did not meet. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Kelly, Chairman of the Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings Committee, do you have a report this evening?
Yes, Madam President, thank you. Recreation, Public Parks and Buildings met at 7:37 p.m. on August 11th. Present was Council President Jones, Councilman Broussard, Councilman Glassburn, Councilman Kelly, Councilman Limpert, Williamson, Clerk of Council, the Finance Director, Safety Service Director, HR Director, and a guest. We discussed 2020-82, a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Wind Supply Company to supply touchless plumbing and electric fixtures for municipal restroom facilities as a real and present emergency exception to public bidding and declaring an emergency. Due to the time constraint with the CARES Act money, the finance director asked that we could maybe do this on suspension. All the city buildings are to get touchless mowing products. Wind Supply was selected. They were the lowest of the three bids at $92,658.90. The electrical not included in that. Committee voted 2-0 to recommend to full council. We ended at 7:47. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any letters or communications to come before council at this time?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us at our council meeting tonight. At this time, council will hear comments from the public. Please remember to state your name and address for our clerk. If you live in a city other than North Olmsted, please state what city you are from. We will start with those who have notified us via the chat feature who would like to comment. Please unmute your phone and start your comment when prompted. Council Clerk, has anyone notified you that they would like to comment?
No, Madam President.
Thank you. At this time, if there is anyone on the phone who would like to comment, please address council now. Seeing no comments from our audience, we will now move into legislation.
Legislation on second reading. Resolution 2020-80, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to accept a donation of four new LifePak CR2 defibrillators, AED, from the Cleveland Clinic for use in the City of North Olmsted Division of Police and declaring an emergency as amended.
Madam President,
Councilman Broussard.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings as we are eager to get this life-saving equipment into use as soon as possible, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilman Limpert. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding Resolution 2020-80, please do so now.
Seeing none, Madam President, I move to adopt Resolution 2020-80 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2020-80 made by Councilman Broussard, seconded by Councilman Limpert. Roll call, please.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-80 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2020-81, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a lease agreement and to subsequently purchase via the state purchase program with Imtech Company a Ford E450 CCTV truck, and further authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to effectuate such lease and purchase via the state purchase program and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Glassburn.
I'd like to move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings as the item is a matter of both public safety and the public welfare, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding Resolution 2020-81, please do so now.
Seeing no takers, Madam President, I would like to move to adopt 2020-81 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2020-81 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-81 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2020-82, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Wind Supply Company to supply touchless plumbing and electric fixtures for municipal restroom facilities as a real and present emergency exception to public bidding and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Kelly.
I move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings as this was heard in committee and it's time sensitive, and I ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Kelly, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding Resolution 2020-82, please do so now.
Madam President,
Councilman Kelly.
hearing none, I move for adoption of 2020-82 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2020-82 made by Councilman Kelly, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Heeman?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Resolution 2020-82 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Ordinance 2020-83, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance enacted by the City of North Olmsted, Cuyahoga County, Ohio, hereinafter referred to as municipality, in the matter of the hereinafter described improvement and request cooperation of the County of Cuyahoga, hereinafter referred to as county, and declaring an emergency. Ordinance 2020-84, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to allow the resurfacing of Brook Park Road, SR 17, from Lorraine Road, SR 10, to the East Corporation Limit, ECL, in the city of North Olmsted, and declaring an emergency.
Madam President,
Councilman Limpert.
I'd like to request the rule waive to require 3 readings, as this is discussed in our committee and caucus, and is important to meet deadlines in order to move forward with the bidding process. Ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding ordinance 2020-84, please do so now.
Madam President,
Councilman Limpert.
seeing no comments, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 2020-84 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-84 made by Councilman Limpert, seconded by Councilman Kelly. Roll call, please.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-84 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2020-85, introduced by Mayor Kennedy. A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to solicit proposals for excess insurance coverage for the city health care and hospitalization plans for 2021, and further authorizing the mayor, subject to approval of the Board of Control, to enter into a contract for said insurance coverage. Legislation on first reading. Ordinance 2020-92. An ordinance repealing ordinances 2020-65, 2020-66, 2020-67, 2020-69, and 2020-70.
Madam President,
Mayor.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President, I would
Councilman
move, I would move to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review, as this is a matter of the public welfare, to not confuse folks with legislation that cannot be enacted, and ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Schuman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding ordinance 2020-92?
Seeing none, Madam President, I will move to adopt 2020-92 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-92 made by Councilman Glassburn, seconded by Councilman Schuman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-92 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2020-93, a resolution authorizing the city engineer to solicit statements of qualifications, SOQ, from qualified professional engineers to provide engineering services for the South Intercept Equalization Tank Project, and further authorizing the mayor, following approval by the Board of Control, to enter into a contract with the firm selected in the request for qualifications, RFQ process, and declaring an emergency.
Madam President?
Here.
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2020-94. An ordinance, 1, declaring the structurally compromised Mackenzie Road culvert to be a public emergency. 2, appropriating funds for the emergency replacement of the culvert. 3, authorizing the city engineer to solicit bids from select Ohio Department of Transportation pre-qualified contractors for the award of a contract to provide emergency construction services pursuant to the emergency exception to the public bidding as detailed in the specifications on file in the Division of Engineering. And 4, authorizing the mayor to contract for said repairs following approval by the Board of Control and declaring an emergency.
Madam President?
Here.
I'd like to introduce, place on first reading, and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings. Our decline of the Mackenzie culvert is it's a health issue and a safety issue. And so in the interest of public health and safety of our residents, I think that suspension is warranted. We did also discuss this in length in our caucus this evening, as well as discussing the contractors and other details, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to address council regarding ordinance 2020-94, please do so now.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
seeing and hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to adopt 2020-94 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2020-94 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Seaman?
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn?
Yes.
Mr. Schuman?
Yes.
Mr. Limpert?
Yes.
Mr. Broussard?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ordinance 2020-94 is adopted with a vote of 6-0.
Resolution 2020-95, a resolution approving of and authorizing the mayor to enter into a collective bargaining agreement with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 1267, AFL-CIO, for the city's firefighters for the period January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023.
Madam President?
Here.
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
Resolution 2020-96, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county fiscal officer.
Madam President?
Here.
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading.
Thank you.
Resolution 2020-97, a resolution dispensing with the RFP process and authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Quality Control Services for the purpose of providing construction engineering services for the Mackenzie Culvert Replacement Project and declaring an emergency.
Madam President?
Here.
I'd like to introduce and place on first reading and request suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings with regard to 2020-97. This is the engineering companion piece of legislation to 2020-94, which is in the interest of public health and safety and was discussed at length in our caucus this evening, and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rule requiring 3 readings and formal committee review made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
That motion passes with a vote of 6-0. If there's anyone who would like to address council regarding 2020-97, please do so now.
Madam President,
Councilwoman Heeman.
seeing and hearing none, I'd like to please make a motion to adopt 2020-97 and ask for a second.
Second.
Motion to adopt 2020-97 made by Councilwoman Heeman, seconded by Councilman Glassburn. Roll call, please.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
2020-97 is adopted with a vote of 6-0. Moving into scheduling committee meetings for next Tuesday, August 25th. Councilman Schuman.
I'd like to schedule a finance committee meeting for 7 o'clock, the 25th, to discuss 2020-95 and 2020-96. I'd like to have the HR director and the finance director or their designate be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Limpert.
I'd like to schedule a BZD meeting at 7:15, discuss the economic development plan, and ask that the planning director and possible economic advisor to be present for that meeting.
Thank you. Councilwoman Heeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to schedule an Environmental Control Committee meeting for 7:45 till 8 o'clock to discuss 2020-93, and the Mayor and Director Lieber, as I understand, will be present. Thank you.
Thank you. The Committee of the Whole will be meeting at 8 p.m. To discuss greater access to our council in committee meetings. Is there a motion on the floor to excuse the absence of Councilwoman Williamson?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to excuse the absence of Councilwoman Williamson from tonight's meeting made by Councilman Schuman, seconded by Councilwoman Heeman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Schuman,
Yes.
Ms. Heeman,
Yes.
Mr. Limpert,
Yes.
Mr. Glassburn,
Yes.
Mr. Kelly,
Yes.
Mr. Broussard.
Yes.
Councilwoman Williamson has been excused from tonight's meeting with the vote of 6-0. With the agenda being completed and there being no further business to come before council, this meeting of August 18th, 2020 is adjourned at 8:44 p.m.